you've got to be very cognizant of him and what he can do to beat you. So it starts with that. They're an elite defensive team, as they generally are. And it's Florida. Again, they're going to have a very competitive mindset. They always have, they always will. And you've got to respect their ability to win games. They've struggled some in the midweeks, but they've also had some really good weekends. So we respect that. We respect the program and respect going down into their ballpark, because in this league, that's always a challenge.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you here on the Game Again, broadcasting live out of TEC Equipment Rental, 2025 Old Dunbar Road out in West Columbia. Going to be going all the way up until 3 o'clock. They got vendors out here. They got food out here. Come by and see us. We got T-shirts. We got koozies, all kind of things to give away. Again, having a great time out here at TEC Equipment Rental going up until 3 o'clock. That was the voice of Coach Kingston talking a little bit earlier on in this week, previewing this matchup with the Florida Gators coming up tonight as South Carolina heads on the road down there to Gainesville. By the way, first pitch comes up at 6:30. Pregame coverage will start at 6:15 right here on the game. And you hate to put a series like this in the category of must win, because I feel like that does kind of get overused a lot when we talk about things that happen in the middle of the season. But for South Carolina, this is very much a make or break point, in my opinion, because you're sitting at 6-6 in conference play as of right now. And look, being around 500 can still put you in a good spot as far as the SEC goes, because it is a tough league. But if you drop another series this weekend to Florida and theoretically fall to maybe 7-9 if you're still able to escape with the Sunday win like they've been doing pretty consistently. And then you go into these next couple of weekends against Arkansas and Kentucky. And I brought up their record before, and it bears repeating again because it's just insane. They are a combined 22-2 in conference play so far this season. And that's your next two opponents. If you are South Carolina, you certainly don't want to, have a rough outing in Gainesville, then go into playing those two teams where you likely could lose one, if not both those series, and continue to fall down as far as the SEC standings. So getting back on track this weekend at Gainesville is an absolute must. And there's obviously the revenge factor of this game for South Carolina, because this is a team that you saw in June last year playing the most important two games of the Kingston era up to that point, because it was the first time you made it to a super. And you went down there, lost by 1 run in the first game, got completely shut down by Hurston Waldrop in that second game, and got sent packing. You could taste Omaha on the horizon. You weren't able to get there, and that Florida team was the reason that you did not get to that point. So there's a revenge factor on the brain, because there's a lot of guys, obviously, from that team a season ago. They're going to want to go down there and get that revenge down there in Gainesville, which, of course, is not an easy place to play by any means. But this is a Florida team that's a whole lot different than they were a season ago, as you would expect. Lost a lot of great talent to the draft and graduation as well. Guys like Wyatt Langford, who went very high in the draft, Josh Rivera, Brandon Sproat, who pitched very well against South Carolina a season ago. And then, as I mentioned, Hurston Waldrop, who pitched that gem of a game that ended up ending South Carolina's postseason aspirations last year. So all those guys are gone. BT Rypol, who's a very important part of their team from that catching spot a season ago, is also gone. So a lot of turnover, but also some familiar names as well when you talk about this Florida Gators team. And one of those guys being Jack Caglione, who is obviously kind of the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball, because he pitches, he hits, plays defense, kind of does it all for the Florida Gators. And no surprise, once again, he's leading the way with Florida in terms of overall batting average on this team. Also hitting a lot of home runs too, with 17, which leads the team. And that's kind of the interesting thing about the Florida Gators, because much like a season ago, they are a very, very good power hitting team. 69 home runs so far this season, which is third best in the SEC. But outside of that, they don't do a whole lot of things great in terms of the offense. They have a very low batting average. They strike out a lot. They do okay at drawing walks, but just getting on base in general, despite drawing a decent amount of walks, is just not good for them. And that's something that South Carolina has to take advantage of. Pitching's been up and down for South Carolina so far this season. So hopefully going up against an offense in Florida that is struggling a little bit right now can hopefully play into the hands of South Carolina, and being able to walk out of Gainesville with with the series victory. And it all starts tonight. As cliche as it sounds, Friday is the game that you got to get first in order to get the other ones. And South Carolina has struggled quite a bit in these Friday games. And I say struggle to the point of letting games slip through their fingers, talking about making mistakes, not having good pitching outings, all that kind of stuff, missing opportunities with driving guys in. There's so much of what ifs with these Friday games with South Carolina, and that sets you up for playing for behind for the rest of the weekend. And then when you don't get the Saturday game, then boom, you've already lost the series. And again, thankfully, South Carolina's been able to salvage most of these Sunday games, or correction, all these Sunday games up to this point. But if you're consistently losing 2 out of 3, that's not going to bode very well for you when it's all said and done, because you do want to win series at the end of the day. And again, an opportunity to hopefully get back on track, taking on taking on Florida coming up tonight. Another person to keep an eye on as far as Florida's offense goes is Colby Shelton. And if you think that name rings a bell, it certainly does. He was the former third baseman at Alabama a season ago. And when he entered the transfer portal after Alabama's year last year, where, of course, their head coach ends up getting fired thanks to his little betting situation, that he looked into the transfer portal, and here's somebody that we thought would actually be able to maybe come to South Carolina, given the fact that his family's local to the Lexington area, but he decides to go out to Florida, end up taking over the shortstop role down there. And he's kind of having an up and down go of it the season himself, kind of trending a little bit in the wrong direction over the course of these past couple games. But like Caglione, a very, very good power hitter, smashed 15 home runs so far this season. And he is certainly going to be looking to get back on track against South Carolina coming up tonight. South Carolina did announce their pitching rotation yesterday, which is a little bit different than what they've done so far this season, where you're going to have Eli Jones getting the Friday start as he's done all season long. You got Ty Good coming in that second starting role on Saturday, and then you're going to have Matthew Becker wrapping up the series on Sunday. And, it's debatable. And I asked Jack Belcher from Gamecock Central about this earlier on today. Are you looking for maybe that consistent starting three to have on a week in, week out basis, or you just kind of continue going with the trends, as it seems like South Carolina's kind of just continued to go with the trends up to the point this season, hopefully trying to find something that finally sticks. And again, you've had weekends where your starting pitching's been good, but your bullpen hasn't been good. You've had other weekends where your bullpen's been good, but your starting pitching hasn't been good. And outside of the Vanderbilt series, neither one's really clicked at the same time. So hopefully that's what South Carolina can get out of this weekend series. And I've been very impressed by Ty Good. Obviously a lot of hype around him coming in from the College of Charleston, and him being the Colonial Athletic Association's pitcher of the year, last year, and we were hoping to see a replication of some of that success once he got here to South Carolina. Has done a very good job. Came in long relief the other day and did really good, and has rightfully earned a spot to to be in this weekend rotation, at least for the time being. And assuming he goes out there and can have a good outing against Florida this weekend, he can maybe still slay in that role coming up next weekend, the weekends going forward as well. Look, with Eli Jones, we know he's going to give up hits. That's just a natural part of the Eli Jones experience. But he, for the most part, has done a pretty good job of mitigating the damage outside of last week, where it just really got away from him pretty quickly there. But for the most part, we know he's going to give up runs, or he's going to give up hits, but doesn't usually give up a whole lot of runs. And hopefully that's the case once again coming up tonight, taking on this Florida Gator offense that is faltering a little bit. And the Gators team as a whole, they have won series against good teams like Texas A&M, like LSU, like Mississippi State, but they're coming in on a 4-game losing streak after getting swept by a pretty bad Missouri team last weekend, and then getting just completely dominated by in-state rival Florida State in their midweek on Tuesday a couple of days ago. So not riding a wave of momentum going into the series, but again, they're going to be looking to get back on track by taking down the team that they ended their season for. They ended the season of last year in the Super Regional down there in Gainesville. So again, first pitch coming up tonight at 6:30. A pregame coverage starting at 6:15 right here on the game. We'll continue to get more insight into the Florida program as Nick De La Torre from Gators Online is set to join me coming up next. And we'll get his perspective on what's been going on down there in Gainesville. Again, Tyler Head, I am broadcasting live out at TEC Equipment Rental in West Columbia, 2025 Old Dunbar Road. You can come by and see us. You can see some of the vendors they got out here. There's food, there's giveaways, prizes, all kinds of stuff. They're playing music. It's a great time out here. And again, we're going to be out here going up until 3. A reminder, you can also check us out on the Game TV. Yes, I am streaming live on the Game TV, even though we are on location. That's all sponsored by our friends over at Shepherd's Glass, as well as you can check us out on the 107.5 The Game app. Just go to the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, download it, and take us with you wherever you go. More baseball conversation with Nick De La Torre, Gators Online, coming up next here on the game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head with you on this Friday afternoon. Again, broadcasting live at a TEC equipment rental. Going to be out here until 3 o'clock. Come by and see us. Of course, getting you set for a busy weekend. A lot of fronts, Masters going on, as well as South Carolina baseball as they head down to Gainesville tonight to take on the Gators in a 3-game set. Want to welcome in on the Love Chevrolet phone lines Nick De La Torre from Gators Online. Nick, first of all, appreciate your time. I know you're very busy down there in Gainesville this week. I believe y'all have the spring game coming up tomorrow, in addition to the Masters and everything else going on this weekend. But I want to start off with this. Obviously, last season you have the runner-up in the College World Series to LSU. You lose a ton of talent to both the MLB draft and graduation. What was the level of expectation of what this team was supposed to be coming into this year for Florida?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you finish second in the NCAA tournament in the College World Series, you're going to be ranked highly. But I think we're kind of seeing what happened with LSU. Like, it's really hard to replace Wyatt Langford, Brandon Sproat, Kirsten Waldrop, Josh Rivera, BT Riopel. And I think you're seeing that with Florida. They're experienced defensively and offensively, but on the mound, 11 of their 18 pitchers are freshmen. 3 of those 11 are hurt. And, you know, as freshmen are, you can't always depend on a freshman. So I think Florida's been going through growing pains on the mound. That's pretty evident when you look at their stats, and their team ERA is north of 6. It might be the highest ERA Kevin Sullivan's ever had for a pitching staff, and he's in his 17th year here. So it's been a frustrating season for Florida fans, especially coming off of a pretty devastating loss in the last game of the year in 2023.
Again, talking to Nick De La Torre from Gators Online, and I know they shifted around their starting lineup for this weekend. Brandon Neely's been moved into the starting role, seemingly for the past couple weeks. Jack Caglian going on Sunday. It seems like they may go with the whole staff approach coming up tomorrow, I guess, depending on how many guys they use tonight.
Yeah, it's the way Jack has pitched on Sundays has really given Florida and their coaching staff the thought that if we can just win 1 out of 2 Friday or Saturday, we feel really good about our chances on Sunday. That has held true for every week for them, except for last week against Missouri. And, you know, even Superman falls down every once in a while, and Jack was probably due for a poor start after the way he started the season. So I would really expect Florida tonight on Friday to hope Brandon Neely can give you 7, and then you need to use either Cade Fisher or Luke McNeely out of the bullpen. Maybe Luke McNeely with Cade Fisher starting ability and what he's done previously starting games. But it's kind of a push all your chips in on Friday to win and figure it out on Saturday, like you said, like a Johnny Holstaff approach on Saturday with the hope to win Friday and Sunday. It's not ideal, but it's kind of where Florida is, just with the inconsistency that they've had on the mound.
Despite the inconsistency, they were still finding a way to win their first couple of series in SEC play against the likes of LSU, A&M, and Mississippi State. But they come into this matchup on a 4-game skid after getting swept by Missouri and losing very, very badly against Florida State the other night. What specifically has gone wrong over the course of these past 4 games?
Pitching. Pitching. I mean, if you look at the scores against Florida State, they got lit up. And it's interesting because Ryan Slater has started some midweek games as Florida looks to get more consistency. His ERA on the weekend is 1.77. He has 8 scoreless outings out of his 10 and no earned runs against SEC teams. You start him on midweek games, and his ERA is 12.6. I don't know how to make sense of that. You would assume that pitching on the weekend would be tougher than pitching on Tuesday, but his ERA doesn't say that. Florida up in Missouri had a couple bad starts and really just didn't have good approaches at the plate, didn't adjust throughout the game. They were 2 hits on Friday, and then Saturday you take a 2-run lead into the 9th inning. You get bases loaded, no outs, a chance to get insurance runs. You get 3 straight strikeouts. So it's been a mixed bag. They've found different ways to win, but the one underlying theme all year has been inconsistency on the mound.
How do you see them matching up with an offense like South Carolina that is very, very good at drawing walks,
Mhm.
the best in the nation at doing so with that play discipline, but also one that strikes out a lot.
Yeah, Florida will walk you, and they will strike you out, and they will give up home runs. I think the Gamecocks can also take the ball out of the yard, and I think that's probably the main thought of taking Liam Peterson out of the Saturday role. Despite how good he is, he has given up 12 home runs over his starts this year. So it's going to be a challenge for Florida. Kevin O'Sullivan has always built his program on first pitch strike, first 2 out of 3. I think there's data to back that up. What opposing hitters' batting averages are based on a 1-2 count versus a 2-1 count, and Florida just hasn't been able to do that, despite how much the coaching staff hammers it into their head. So if South Carolina can get to Florida's bullpen, I think that's been what teams have tried to do. They've tried to get the Friday starter out, get to the bullpen. Florida isn't really deep in the bullpen, certainly not as much as they were last year. And if you can get to the bullpen on Friday, you really start affecting what they're able to do on the mound on Saturday.
Looking at things from an offensive standpoint, Florida's still very good when it comes to hitting home runs, third in the SEC in that regard, but the second lowest batting average as a whole, as well as a pretty low on-base percentage. You know, when they're not hitting the ball out of the yard, where's the disconnect with this offense?
That's it's at times a one-dimensional offense and very home run reliant. And when you have, I mean, they might have 5 guys who end up with 17, 20 plus home runs. So you've got plenty of power, but the issue has been creating offense outside of the home run and just getting guys on base. So you're not only hitting solo home runs, it's the situational hitting for Florida has been lacking. You know, when I go back to that Sunday game where they have bases loaded with no outs, a little league batter knows, hey, I need a pitch that I can elevate and get to the outfield, and you strike out on 5 pitches. Now it's even more critical for the next guy to hit the ball somewhere in the air, get a pitch to drive. But you constantly just see approaches of guys trying to hit 400-foot home runs. So they're not really a bunting team, a station-to-station team. They knew they weren't going to be. It's something that they practice, but it's not something that they excel at. So that's also been another issue with the baseball program, is just how do you find other means to score when your offensive identity is this big slugging team. And we're here in the 5th weekend of SEC play. You kind of are what you are. There's no free agency, or at least not during the season. You can't trade players. So this is kind of what Florida's roster is. And if you can keep the ball in the yard, Florida has shown that they have a hard time scoring otherwise.
Before I let you go, I heard you on the Gamecock Central show with our guy Jack Belcher yesterday. Mentioned you were out at the Masters a little bit earlier on this week. First of all, how was that experience? And you got a favorite for this weekend?
Yeah, it was actually my second time being able to get to Augusta. So lucky that I've been able to get there more than once. If you ever get the opportunity, take it. It's an awesome place, and I think my sentimental pick is Rory. I'm not a big live golf fan, so I think the PGA kind of laid him out, made him the face of this anti-live campaign, and then got a big check from the Saudis and just said, "Hey, sorry, Rory." And he's been so close. I think we finished runner-up in 2022. It would help him finish his Grand Slam. So I'm pulling for Rory, but it'll be interesting. I know DeChambeau went really, really low round 1, but I think the course is playing a lot different. It was pretty nasty weather, even down here in Gainesville, all the way up. I'm sure you guys got it up in Columbia as well. The course is playing a little bit softer, so we'll see what the weekend plays. I'm definitely sentimentally rooting for Rory.
I think there's a lot of people that are joining that camp. Appreciate your time. Excited for what happens down there in Gainesville, as well as what happens out at Augusta National. Appreciate it, Nick.
You guys have a good weekend.
Again, Nick De La Torre from Gators Online. Again, Tyler Head broadcasting live out here at TEC Equipment Rental, going up until 3 o'clock. Again, they got vendors out here. They got food out here. We got T-shirts and koozies, the whole 9 yards. Come by and see us as we're hanging out here all afternoon long. We'll hit the Firehouse Sub text of the hour as we wrap up hour number 1 of the halftime show here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you out here at TEC Equipment Rentals in West Columbia, 2025 Old Dunbar Road, wrapping up hour number one. We are going to be out here until 3 o'clock, so you are more than welcome to come by and see us. Come out, enjoy lunch from Hudson's Catering, speak to vendors, see all the types of equipment that they have to offer. Also have some door prizes they're going to be giving out throughout the day as well. They're literally giving some out as I'm talking right now. There's like a golf kit. I saw like a DeWalt drill or something like that. So some cool stuff they're giving away again out at 2025 Old Dunbar Road out here at TEC Equipment Rental. As always, it is time to hit the Firehouse Subs text of the hour, 803-404-6100. And I got to laugh at this, and I appreciate you guys for correcting me. Nameless texter weighs in and says, if South Carolina loses this series, assuming it'd be one win and 2 losses, then they would be 7-8, not 8-7. You are 100% correct on that. Sometimes I cannot count correctly, and I was just, I guess, theorizing in my head they were going to go ahead and lose all 3 games, and I've created a mythical 3rd game or 4th game for them to win. So yes, if they do lose the series this weekend against Florida, as the way that they've been doing it, dropping the first 2 games and winning the 3rd one, then it would be a 7-8 record, not a 7-9 record. And as we talked about with Nick De La Torre in that last segment there, you're going to be very hard pressed to win the Sunday game. I'll say that much. Jack Caglione, as we saw a season ago, very, very special player. The Shohei Ohtani of college baseball with his ability to do a little bit of everything. And in today's era of specialization, when it comes to baseball, especially once you get into the, really the high school ranks now, because I played high school baseball and, we used DHs. So the guys that were pitching never really had to worry about, never had to worry about pitching. So even as you get into the ages of, 14, 15, 16, and 17, you're already starting to get into that specialization type of role to where you kind of primarily focus on either being a pitcher or being somebody out in the field that can focus on hitting a little bit more. So to see a guy like Jack Caglione not only have the success that he has, but have the success that he has at the level that is Division I baseball at a place like Florida is pretty unique and pretty special. And again, if you're not a Florida fan, then you're probably hate what the guy is able to do, especially watching from the perspective of South Carolina fan coming up this weekend. But if you just enjoy good baseball in general, he's a really fun talent to watch. And hopefully South Carolina can keep him at bay this upcoming weekend. And again, it all starts with that Friday night game. Getting that win tonight. Again, Brandon Neely being moved into that Friday night role after coming out of the bullpen a season ago. He actually came in and he pitched the 1 inning, the final inning against South Carolina in that super regional down there in Gainesville last year after Hurston Waldrop went out there and threw that gem of a game to shut South Carolina down for the prior 8 innings. So this is a guy that South Carolina's seen before. And again, he's faltered a little bit in his last couple starts against Mississippi State and specifically against Mississippi State, where he gave up, I believe, 5 hits and 5 runs in about 3 innings of work. And then gave up a couple hits last week against Missouri in a game they did end up losing. So again, South Carolina's got to take advantage of this, got to get on base, take advantage of those walks, which again, Florida does a lot of that, but they also strike people out a lot, as Nick De La Torre said. So got to be careful out there, got to have that good plate discipline, and for Christ's sakes, just stop looking at, strike 3 so much, as that's become a glaring issue with this team, where I get it. There's a balance when it comes to plate discipline, but, you got to pick and choose and get those, not be looking at third strikes as much, and just put the ball in play. If nothing else, put the ball in play. You're going to have some ground outs and stuff like that, but you're also going to have the opportunity to hopefully bring home some of those runs and stop leaving as many guys on base, at the end of the day, which again is going to be very important for a series like this, where runs, could end up coming at a premium if neither offense is able to click things in gear the way that you want to. And again, hopefully South Carolina can come out on the other side, with the series victory and ride some kind of wave of momentum as they head into these next couple tough series, taking on Arkansas and Kentucky over these next couple weekends to, set yourself up for a good closeout of the SEC regular season and put yourself in position to maybe make some noise when you get out to Hoover in a little over a month's time. That's the crazy thing, right? Once you get into the month of April, things start really, really flying by. We talk about the month of February kind of go by in a blink, and then it feels like March takes forever, and March Madness and all that kind of stuff kind of couples with that, which maybe makes it seem like a long time. But Then you get into April, and boom, we're halfway through the month by the end of the weekend, and only a handful more series to go in the SEC regular season. And I mentioned specifically Arkansas, Kentucky being on the horizon because that's who you have coming up next. But looking at Georgia and Tennessee, two high-powered, explosive offenses. I was watching some of the Georgia game last night, and Charlie Condon had 5 RBIs against Missouri. And yes, Missouri isn't a great team, but he's an animal. And Tennessee's got a lot of guys up and down their lineup that you're going to have problems with when you get to that. So again, there's no easy weekend in the SEC, but particularly once you get past Florida this weekend, it really, really ramps up in intensity and the level of competition that you're going to have to deal with. So we'll see what Coach Kingston and company can do coming up tonight. Again, first pitch at 6:30, pregame coverage starting at 6:15 right here on the game. 1 hour down, 2 more hours to go. Our guy Dimitri Ravano is going to jump in with me, chat a little bit of football, as we always do in the 1 o'clock hour. Again, Tyler, head out at TEC Equipment Rental out here in West Columbia, 2025 Old Dunbar Road. Going to be out here until 3 o'clock. Again, food, they got prizes to give away. Vendors are out here. Come by and see us. We got T-shirts, just been giving some of those away. Having a great time out here at TEC Equipment Rentals out in West Columbia. Hour number 2 coming up, the halftime show here on the game.
Yo.
Hey, you got me, Dimitri?
I do. You're not coming through my headphones, though. Hang on.
Let me turn that on. Okay, you got me?
Yeah.
All right. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get our Comrex back going again.
That'll.
We may just have to roll with it like this for a minute.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
All right, we're gonna roll with StreamYard on this segment, Ed, and then we'll try and fix it in the next break. Okay?
Sounds good, buddy.
All right. I can't hear anything, so just give me a countdown when we're coming back in, okay? And then I'll hang up on you.
All right.
Starting with Kay and Saban.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, can you see if you can get this thing reconnected again? We lost our connection.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it timed out. I don't have time to mess with it right this second.
I got you.
Yeah. We're on Access 3.
Yeah. Well, if it timed out on there, I guess I'll try on here.
I don't know if they have. Hey, Ed, do you have Access 4? No. What? 6 and 7. All right, we're going to try a different one. Hold on. See if you can get 6. Try 6. We're going to try 6.
Let me go to here. Disconnect.
All right.
9, 8,
All right.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're up, buddy.
All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you, broadcasting live out at TEC Equipment Rental out here in West Columbia 2025, Old Dunbar Road. Our guy, Dimitri Ravenos, is going to be joining me for a couple segments here as we're talking football in the 1 o'clock hour. I do have to ask Dimitri, I know you have a particular taste when it comes to sports. You a golf guy at all?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit, not even
No.
to the Masters?
No, I mean, I saw a little bit while I was at the gym. I think it was yesterday. I guess it must have been the first round that I watched a little bit of, and that will be all of the Masters that I see this year.
That's it. You're not even following Tiger or anything big like that?
No, and when it comes to the Masters especially, I just don't find it as charming as some people do. I've seen green grass before. Like, I feel like that's the kind of thing, if you live in a big city, Augusta National looks beautiful. If you have a backyard that's already green,
Sure.
you're fine. You get it.
Sure. Yeah, well, I consider myself a little bit more of a casual golf fan, but I definitely kind of lock in when it comes to the Masters because it's obviously a big deal. But this is football, and I want to do something interesting here. I want to kind of tie in football and basketball a little bit. And you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday because the big news of the week, bigger news than the national championship, which hats off to Calipari for stealing the headlines before the biggest game of the entire year, is what was the head coaching search for a replacement of John Calipari at the University of Kentucky. Officially confirmed earlier today, Mark Pope is taking that job, coming over from BYU. He's a former Kentucky basketball player himself, so he's an alumni. His success at BYU hasn't been all that great, but he is getting the job nonetheless. And it's interesting because coming into 2024 on January 1st, I don't think anybody would have expected you'd be replacing the head coach at both Alabama and the University of Kentucky. Now, Alabama's had a lot of, and from a football standpoint, obviously, with Nick Saban, and Alabama's obviously had a lot more success on the football standpoint than Kentucky's had in basketball over the past decade. But these two jobs are very similar to each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the expectation is never not going to be at the very, very top. I think that probably one of the things that Kentucky suffered from, or I guess made it tough to sell this job, is Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director there, just very publicly did not back his head coach, right? Like Cal said that, hey, here was the offer that I had from Arkansas, and I took it to Kentucky, and Kentucky said they weren't interested in matching. And even though there have been some tournament woes in recent years, and even though he does only have that one national championship, I don't think you could call Cal a failure, right? So I would imagine that frightened off some pretty good candidates.
It's not a failure from the standpoint of what I'd say 90 to 95% of other fan bases expect. But at Kentucky, if you're not getting past the second round more consistently like they have been these past couple of years, then you're not going to go very far. And it was one of those things where, you know, we kind of followed this as the season was coming to an end when they got bounced by Oakland. Like, there was like, oh, are they going to keep him? Is he going to stay? And he ended up being okay to stay another year. And that $33 million buyout probably had something to do with that. But then the Arkansas offer comes and he decides to take that. And the people were rejoicing in the street saying, hey, we finally got rid of the guy. Now let's go out there and get Dan Hurley from UConn. But as it turns out, like you said, some of those high level coaches look at Lexington and say, I don't want to deal with those people. I'm good where I'm at. And
Hurley
with option 5 or 6.
Yeah, like Hurley is not a surprise, right? UConn has very quietly become the best program of the last 25 years. Like, think whatever you want to about UNC and Duke. Like, UConn has won twice as many national championships in the last 25 years as Coach K did his entire career at Duke. So why would you give that up for the shakiness of the Kentucky job combined with a resurgent SEC when it comes to basketball? Billy Donovan, I think Billy Donovan's been there, done that with college. I don't think he was ever going to be a serious candidate. I think the ones that really hurt were Nate Oates reiterating before they even got the chance to talk to him that he was not leaving Alabama. Scott Drew taking a meeting and then not leaving Baylor. Like, those are the ones that I think really humble Kentucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the fan base there, which is rabid in its own right, just kind of expected, like, oh, everybody's going to want to come to this job. They're going to throw a boatload of money at them. Why would you want to stay at UConn when you come to Kentucky? But if I'm somebody like a Dan Hurley, like a Scott Drew, I'm looking at that and saying, again, I got it made where I'm at. If I go to Kentucky and I don't make a Final Four by year number 3, they're going to be ready to run me out of town anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a matter of at this point, college basketball, the talent is spread so thin that there is no guarantee the grass is greener, whether it's Duke, Kentucky, UCLA, UNC, any of these quote unquote blue blood programs. There's no reason to believe they are automatically better than any other power conference program, I should say, in the country. And you hit on the boosters. And I think, you talked about the Alabama job being open. I think that other coaches look at these two guys, Saban for Alabama football, Calipari with Kentucky basketball, and look at the way they dealt with boosters. Saban actually came in, sort of strong-armed boosters into turning that into a better job. Calipari came in and proved that the Kentucky basketball fan, the guy that is going to give every single dollar of his paycheck to get that seat inside Rupp Arena for, be it Louisville, Tennessee, whatever.
Right.
That guy may not be able to be satisfied, or that guy may not be able to sort of see the forest for the trees right now on what the realities of college basketball are in 2024.
Yeah, and very much so when you look at both Saban and Calipari being at those respective schools, the NIL aspect, not that it didn't come into play, but it wasn't, I'd say, as big a factor as some other places because of the reputation of what they build as being able to, hey, if you come to Alabama, for one, you're going to be able to play for national championships. 2, we're going to get you to the NFL, which is the end goal at the end of the day. So some guys might have looked at it and said, okay, I will take an opportunity to maybe not make as much in NIL, knowing I have the potential to make millions of dollars as a first-round draft pick here in a couple of years. Same thing with Kentucky, which, again, basketball has the one-and-done model. So you're saying, okay, I go there for 1 year, then I can go be a lottery pick in the NBA draft and make more money than I know what to do with. So they were there was a way of taking that approach and saying, okay, maybe we don't need to be as big on NIL. And going back to Calipari having those complaints a couple of years ago where he legitimately said, we're a basketball school. Why are you guys throwing so much money at football when, again, football is, the cash cow at most places, but Kentucky's a different dynamic. And now that you're kind of resetting with a guy like Mark Pope, they're going to have to pony up more money maybe.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to hit on a couple of things you said there real quick. First of all, did you ever hear Saban complain that we are not a basketball school, we're a football school? No, because he kept it in check. Even last year when the basketball team was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, Saban never came out and said anything. One comment he made at a booster club meeting leaked to the public about wrong place, wrong time never being an excuse, but you didn't really see him play it the way Calipari did. The other thing that I think we really have to talk about here, Tyler, is what you said about the way college basketball works. Why was it easy for Alabama to have their guy in less than 3 days and it took Kentucky so long? Because college football ain't college basketball. You're not just competing with the other 300 and however other many teams there are in the country. You're also competing with the G League. You're also competing with going overseas. You're also competing with overtime elite. It is not the NBA's job to maintain the health of college basketball. And if a kid has the opportunity to make a paycheck as good as, or maybe even a little bit better than his NIL check, and he is not there for the degree anyway. What can you do? What can you do to argue with that if you're a college basketball coach?
Well, and I think this is also an opportunity to give credit to Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama, and maybe, look at Mitch Barnhart a little bit sideways at Kentucky because, not that, Saban was told him 6 months ago that he was going to retire at the end of the year, but you always have to have that kind of thing at the back of your mind. Like, hey, whenever he's done, who's my list of guys that I'm going to go after, which again is why they're able to make a hire so quickly, in about a 48-hour time span from when Saban retired. And it almost kind of seemed like Mitch Barnhart didn't have a plan when Calipari, and again, they were going to retain him for another season, but you always have to have that what if factor if he does take another job or if some other opportunity comes up to it. And it just kind of seems like they were scrambling as soon as he left. Like, okay, well, go get Dan Hurley. Okay, well, that didn't work. Go get Scott Drew. Go get whoever. And just all those dominoes are falling. And now, again, you're down to what is seemingly your fifth or sixth option.
This is before I say this, I always feel it really important to say I am not as down on Will Muschamp as some Carolina fans were by the end, but I think that Carolina fans can empathize a little bit with Mitch Barnhart here because this is sort of similar to Spurrier. Now, Spurrier leaving South Carolina in the middle of the season did give Ray Tanner enough time that he should have come out of there with a plan, but also the way that search kind of went. I remember all of us sort of looking around going, this feels like they're just doing Muschamp because that's the easy thing to do and not really putting in the time and effort to a search. Sometimes if you are not experienced in that realm or if you did not expect to be in this spot, it can catch you by surprise. Barnhart is not a guy that is a dope, right? Like, he is Greg Byrne's mentor. Like, if you look at his Wikipedia page, Mitch Barnhart has a long list, like 7 or 8 dudes that are athletic directors at power programs across the country that are off of his athletic director tree. I don't know what we call it when you get to the administrative side of things. But clearly he got caught a little bit flat-footed here, and I wonder if this is another sort of hard assessment that Kentucky has to do when everybody has NIL money to throw around, when boosters are rethinking how they are throwing their money around. It does not take as much money to suddenly make yourself competitive in basketball as it does in football. Look at what happened with Baylor.
Yeah. Well, and that was the big reason why Coach Calipari ended up going to Arkansas. One, they threw a lot of money at him from the chicken nugget factory, but also they're like, hey, here's all this NIL money we're going to be able to give you to bring in whatever kind of caliber talent you want, which is very enticing. So again, Kentucky kind of has to go back to the drawing board and we'll see what happens. But you bring in a guy that's literally never won an NCAA tournament game, doesn't exactly fit the mold of what I think a lot of Kentucky fans were hoping for. And by the way, I don't know if you've been on their message boards today, but they're melting down.
Oh, of course they are, because they didn't think this was possible. I think that one thing that Kentucky, and really this is something that I think a lot of athletic directors at a lot of programs across a multitude of sports are going to start to think about. I had this conversation with Chip Patterson of CBS Sports during the Alabama search because I was sort of shocked that they didn't make a dare you to say no kind of offer to Dan Lanning, right?
Sure.
Chip's point was that Phil Knight, owner of Nike, super booster at Oregon, where Phil ran track, recognizes he is over 80. He does not have a whole lot of time left to see his school win one of the big national championships, right? And football seems to be Oregon's best shot. So he's going to throw everything he can at keeping that coach, building up what they have right now. And they look pretty close as they have ever looked. I think you could say the same thing about Jerry Jones at Arkansas, right? Like, that's a dude with a lot of money to throw around, and he probably recognizes it's not happening in college football. But college basketball is sort of a blank slate each and every season.
Sure. And there was certainly the potential with Eric Musselman as he taking them deep in a couple of tournaments, but he obviously goes and takes the Southern Cal's job. So you look around and say, well, why not bring in Calipari? And if we can get the same caliber of talent and throw in NIL money, a bunch of guys, who knows what we can accomplish. So I am interested to see the dynamic between Arkansas and Kentucky coming up next year and how quickly the folks in Lexington are going to be ready to run Mark Pope out of town.
I will tell you one thing that I think is really interesting here, as much as we talk about the SEC and the Big Ten as the power conferences now, this all happened because SMU did not think their basketball coach was ready for an ACC schedule next year.
I love the domino effects when these kind of things happen. It's so funny to look back and say, here's the starting point, and here's how we ended up here. We'll continue on with football, and football guy Dimitri joining us, and he has an interesting little thing that he's doing with the NFL draft as we get closer and closer to it. We'll dive into that coming up. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head out at TEC Equipment Rentals in West Columbia, 2025 Old Dunbar Road, going until 3 here on the game. Yeah. I got to get us back on this thing first. Can we reset this and start over? All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head along with you here on the game.
Hang on, start over. Hang on. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Dimitri Ravanos along with you here on the game. I'm broadcasting live out of TEC Equipment Rentals out here in West Columbia, 2025 Old Dunbar Road. Going to be out here until 3. Again, it is the 1 o'clock hour. We are talking football. And Dimitri obviously keeps the finger on the pulse better than anybody when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. And we are, the month of April goes by so fast. We're only a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft, and the Panthers have some decisions to make. So they do not have a first-round pick. A couple picks early on in the second round as they try and rebuild around Bryce Young, who so desperately needs some help.
Yeah, we've been doing this thing on the podcast, which is called This Team is Killing Us. Every day leading up to the NFL draft, we're doing a new mock draft. We call it our Panthers Pretend Draft Series. And one thing that has become very apparent is with those 2 second-round picks, one of them has to be a pass catcher of some sort, most likely a wide receiver. If somehow Brock Bowers starts to fall, I think they would make a move up to try and go get him in the first round. But, you know, I have been very adamant that of those guys that are not going to make it out of the first round when it comes to receivers, I think Xavier Legette is the most talented. Sure. But as I've been doing these mock drafts, reading analysis, watching video, I don't think if both Xavier Legette and Xavier Worthy are on the board, I think the Panthers should take Worthy. I think Xavier Legette is the better receiver. I think Xavier Worthy is the better receiver for Bryce Young.
Okay. Xavier Worthy, a little bit on the smaller side, not somebody that can go out there and get some of those contested catches. What is that I don't know, not a red flag, but is that something you're concerned about if you bring him in?
No, because the biggest problem that Bryce had last year that he could not control was he didn't have any receivers that could get consistent separation. And you are talking about not only the fastest guy to ever run the 40 at the combine, you're also talking about a guy that had one of the faster starts in the 40 at the combine. And that is going to be where real separation comes into play, particularly against press coverage. And I think that is the kind of thing that is going to be a big difference maker. I love Legette. I love his skill set. I love his size. And if the Panthers wanted to get crazy and go Worthy at 33 and Legette at 39, I would not hate it. I don't think it is likely. I just think that when you have a smaller quarterback, when you have an offensive line that is almost completely rebuilt, and keep in mind, by the way, with the offensive line being rebuilt, we still don't know what effect it's going to have on the running game. Like we complained a lot about the passing game. The running game was pretty bad last year too. I think you got to give your young quarterback every advantage. And I think the start that Xavier Worthy has to route running is going to be a real X factor for a guy like Bryce Young.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, that'd be not necessarily a risk, but that's putting a lot of eggs in one basket if you get wide receivers back to back that early, which again, they do need that help because again, you had Adam Thielen out there as your number one guy, and he's in no shape to be that once again this upcoming season. But there's so many areas on this team that needs help. You really got to, what would you say is priority number 2 after wide receiver in the draft?
I actually think that probably priority 2, you could flip a coin between center and you got to find an edge rusher to replace Brian Burns. I think that center is where they just don't have an answer, right? Like at tackle, we don't love the answer in running back Ike Ekwonu, but there is a body there. There's just not with center. So if a guy like Zach Frazier from West Virginia is there, if Jackson Powers Johnson, who is starting to fall in the eyes of some mock drafts, but keep in mind, mock drafts don't really mean anything. If he's there, I think you got to pounce on one of those two kind of guys. Maybe Graham Barton from Duke you would put in that mix as well. But edge rusher is interesting because that's a position that's kind of thin in this draft. I mean, Jared Verse, Latu, and Dallas Turner are all on this plane that is well above everybody else. Then you have Missouri's Darius Robinson, Adisa Isaac out of Penn State, that next tier. But I look at the film on these guys, and I think it's a tier so far below those top 3 that I don't know if you could afford to wait on an edge the way you can on a center in this class.
Yeah, and again, there's so many areas of this team that they need.
Right. Yeah. There's absolutely
really no
nowhere
wrong
they're
option.
wrong.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things that wherever you end up drafting, and again, they'll have the 33rd pick to start off the second round there. But it's kind of one of those, you almost kind of go with the best guy available, no matter what the need is, kind of thing, I would imagine.
I think 33. I think the need for a pass catcher is so extreme that you've got to go wide receiver at either 33 or 39. But otherwise, yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think it is what fills the most glaring need the best way is what you have to look at for every pick. Like if the best guy on the board come your third round pick is Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, well, that's foolish. You don't want to do that. But if you are looking at a scenario where somebody that is, I don't know, a corner or one of the top linebackers, middle linebackers in this draft starts to fall, just because it's not a glaring need does not mean it wouldn't be worth doing for this team, because this team right now just needs talent.
Since we're talking about NFL draft, I'd love to get your perspective on this. JJ McCarthy continues to climb people's draft boards despite not showing some of the same things in college that we saw at a Caleb Williams or even a Jaden Daniels. But there's this thought that maybe he was just kind of being held back, that maybe, Jim Harbaugh didn't have to use him as much as he otherwise could have. We saw glimpses of that when they played TCU in that playoff game a couple years ago. He has the ability to go out there and sling it all around the yard. He just hasn't been put in that position a whole lot. Are you buying that JJ McCarthy could be a top 5 pick?
I am, because teams are so quarterback desperate. I think somebody, whether it is, you know what, I would guess it is going to be Denver, although everybody is talking about Minnesota because they have more ammo. But I think Denver knows they cannot do a deal with LA. Like Jim Harbaugh is not going to let a division rival take his favorite quarterback to ever walk the earth. So I think somebody's going to overwhelm Arizona to move up to number 4. I think this league has seen that you can have a reasonable amount of success with a Kirk Cousins type. And I think that's what most people think JJ is, but JJ can move. And that is going to be a big difference maker, I think, between, you know, Kirk Cousins being his high end versus something a little more worthy of a top 4 pick. Personally, to me, he's obviously number 4 of the top 4. And I'm jaded, right? I'm in love with Michael Penix Jr., but Penix has an injury history. Sure. He is a little bit older, so I get why you would make JJ, why you would put JJ above him. I don't think he's on the level of Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or Caleb Williams, though.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And again, though, we're two weeks away from the draft starting now. If I'm
the 25th, I believe, is the first night of the draft. So yeah, a little under 2 at this point.
Is it Kansas City this year? Is that right?
It's in Detroit this year.
Detroit, that's right. There's so much to keep up with. Where the draft is going to be located is not always at the top of my priority list. I do think it's interesting that they're traveling around a little bit more now, kind of making a show out of it. That scene that they had a couple years ago, taking out the entire downtown Nashville and the upset bachelor parties, is always hilarious to me.
Well, you know, when you get the Vegas on the water of the fountains at the Bellagio,
which they were going to do that in
cool.
2020, but COVID
got
in them.
Right. So when you get that, those look great. This year, like, being kind, because I like Detroit as a city,
Sure.
but it's going to be really tough to find those beauty shots of Detroit, right? And with this thing, is it in 2 years it goes to Green Bay? Brother, you're going to have a lot of more than ever before, I would guess. You're going to have top prospects deciding to do a party at home rather than attend the draft in person.
You're going to go down the local VFW there in Green Bay. There's not a whole lot there besides Lambeau.
It's going to be like when the Super Bowl was in Jacksonville that year, and I can't remember which celebrity it was, but there were so few venues that could do those celebrity parties that someone ended up having their party at a Cracker Barrel.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hey, that's my kind of party.
Yeah, listen, I'm not turning it down. Is the fireplace going?
That's right. All right, Dimitri, appreciate your time as always. We'll check back in with you next week, but appreciate you hanging out with us today.
All right, Tyler. Thanks, buddy.
All right, we will jump back in the baseball conversation. Re-rack my interview a little bit earlier on today with Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central and what he had to say about this South Carolina baseball team as they head on the road to take on Florida coming up tonight. Again, first pitch at 6:30, 6:15 pregame right here on the game.
Yeah.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor, and Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now, get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you on this Friday morning here on The Game. Huge weekend. We're just talking about baseball in that last segment, and we'll get into that with our guy Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central in just a second. But Jack, I do have to start off. I heard you made your way out to Augusta National for the first time this week. How was that?
Oh, baby. I am glad you asked about that. First off, thank you for having me on as always. It was my first time going. Shout out to my good buddy Jordan K from the state for inviting me to come out. Big shout to him. None of it's possible without him. But it was a great time, man. First time out there. It's the best way I've described it is like it's like going to Disneyland, right? It's that kind of atmosphere where everyone's so nice. You walk through the gates and it's like you're going into heaven, basically. It's insane. It's otherworldly. The food cheap, nice and good. The pro shop expensive but worth it. Seeing Tiger Woods play. Insane. That's a once-in-a-lifetime experience right there. One of the all-time greats. Other guys like Justin Thomas, Fred Couples, Dustin Johnson, Max Hallmark, guys like that. It was unbelievable. But yeah, it was an amazing day on Tuesday.
Well, it's on everybody's sports bucket list, and I hope to experience the same thing one day myself. But really cool that you had to go out there and experience that. Of course, this weekend, a big series for the Gamecock baseball team as they head down to Gainesville. Sounds like you're on the way down there right now, actually, as first pitch coming up tonight at 6:30. And this is a Florida team I talked about in the last segment, a little bit weird so far this season. They've won series, but they're on a bit of a 4-game skid right now, losing to Missouri and then losing to Florida State in their midweek contest on Tuesday. Is South Carolina catching them at the right time, or is this kind of one of those trap scenarios, you think?
That's a great question because it could literally go either way. Could Florida continue to struggle? Yes. I don't expect that. I expect Florida to play a lot better this weekend. So South Carolina is going to be getting Florida's best, in my opinion. Where South Carolina can win this matchup is in pitching, right? I think they have the better trio of pitchers going out there. Florida's team ERA, I think, is like over 6 this year. And outside of Jack Caglione, their pitching staff is kind of a mess. You got Brandon Neely, who was the closer last year for this team, as a Friday night starter this week, I believe. So we'll see what happens. But I think South Carolina with Becker, Good, and Jones that's a good 1-2-3 punch to start the weekend off.
Again, talking to our guy Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central, previewing the baseball series with Florida coming up this weekend. And that was the 3 starters announced yesterday, with Eli Jones staying in the Friday role. Ty Good getting the Saturday start, and then Matthew Becker sliding in on Sunday. There's been so much movement and rotation with this starting three for South Carolina this year. Do you think it's more advantageous to eventually find a consistent three, or do you think they just keep going with kind of the trends of how the year's gone so far?
Well, I think about it this way. I think you're going to have to kind of keep going with this mix and shuffle of guys, just because that is baseball at the end of the day. Every weekend's different. Matchups are different. There could be a weekend where you're facing all left-handed batters, and maybe you want to throw Matthew Becker and another lefty out there. I'm just thinking about it that way. But also think about it this way when it comes to postseason play, like with the SEC tournament, for instance. If you end up making it all the way, you're going to have to use more starting pitchers, and that means you're throwing different guys out there and stuff, and for different matchups. And then once you get to the regionals and super regionals, I mean, you could start with your normal rotation, but at the same time, if you're playing 4 or 5 games, you're going to have to pitch different guys. So I think it also helps South Carolina in a way, because if it's not the same starting 3 out there every weekend, it creates a little bit more, homework and research for the other teams to kind of scout and figure out, okay, how are we going to, hit with this guy on the mound.
When you look at this Florida team as far as batting goes, they're a little bit of an anomaly because they still hit for power really, really well like they did a season ago. One of the best teams in the SEC when it comes to home runs. But other than that, really struggling to get on base. How does South Carolina, go into this weekend from a pitching standpoint, trying to limit that power?
Well, I think first off, you have to figure out a way. They have to have a really good plan for Jack Caglione, who's their 3-hole hitter, I believe. But I mean, wherever he's hitting in the order, he's a phenomenal player, 2-way player. He's like the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball, in my opinion. But I think you get the pitch around him a little bit. If you have to intentionally walk him from time to time, do it. I think it's worth it. You have to be careful with this line because they have other power threats besides Cags. They have a guy like Colby Shelton or Tyler Shelnut or guys like that can go out there and do some damage. So I think you just have to be careful. You don't want to fall behind in counts. Try to limit the walks a little bit. But I think with guys like Becker and Good and even Jones that pitch really well and don't usually get up a ton of walks right now, I think that's a good sign for South Carolina.
Fridays have been a struggle for South Carolina in all their SEC series, minus the one they won against Vanderbilt a couple weeks back. And a lot of that stems from not having a lot of production at the top of the lineup. As you mentioned, Brandon Neely is being slided into the Friday role now. But even he, in his past couple weeks, has struggled against likes Mississippi State, had an okay outing against a very bad Mizzou team. Is this an opportunity for South Carolina to get back on track offensively in a Friday night setting?
Yeah, I think you have to set the tone right out of the gate. I think you need to like you said, your top of the order guys need to be hitting better, and I think they have. I like the shuffle that Kingston did on Sunday, I believe, where you slide Nolan to the 3-hole. I believe you moved Kennedy Jones up to the 2-hole. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's those guys at the top of the order. But either way, you're getting Cole Messina back this weekend, more likely than not, which is a big plus. So I think having those top of the order bats do some damage right away is a big sign. It would be great. And then I think that kind of carries over with the rest of the lineup, which honestly, the 5 through 9 typically, especially against Charlotte or UNC the other day, was definitely struggling a little bit.
Again, talking to Jack Felch from Gamecock Central as the baseball team takes on Florida. First pitch coming up tonight at 6:30, pregame coverage starting at 6:15 right here on the game. One thing that I do know is going to play into South Carolina's favor is the fact that Florida is one of the worst teams in the SEC when it comes to walking opponents, currently third with 146 walks so far this season, but they also have a fair amount of strikeouts, which that's kind of been the Jekyll and Hyde with South Carolina this year is, yes, they're good at drawing walks, but they also strike out quite a bit too. How do you see this playing for the team this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, South Carolina does strike out a lot. I think that's their identity at this point. They're a team that strikes out a lot, but they somehow find a way to win most of the time. So the key, I think, is if they are going to get walked a ton, you hope that your bats in the lineup are able to drive them in. And And what I mean is, if you have a guy that gets walked immediately, and it's someone like a Will Tippett or whoever, I think you're going to bunt in most cases and move the runner up to second with one out. Now it's on whoever's in the order to go ahead and drive that guy in. And I think that's kind of going to be the one of the big keys to this series is that if South Carolina's going to get on base, are they going to be able to bring runs across? Because, look, if it weren't for Dylan Brewer the other night up in Charlotte, South Carolina might end up losing that game because they were 1 for 10 with runners in score position, which is not good at all. And they really do have to be better in those spots. And, look, it doesn't help when they do strike out a ton, but if you can just do your job at key moments, I think you have a chance.
Last one for you here. Coach Kingston touched on this a little bit the other day when talking to the media. This is where your season came to an end last year in the Super Regional down there in Gainesville. Hurston Waldrop pitched that gem of a game and shut South Carolina out. How much of the revenge factor plays into South Carolina's motivation going down there this weekend?
Something asked about a good bit, talked about. They still definitely remember what happened last year. How could you not? That was just a series where you're 2 wins away from going to, the biggest stage in college baseball. And look, that's the standard for South Carolina at this point. You want to get to Omaha every year, and when you fall short, it sucks. So, there was a lot of hurt on that team, and look, a lot of things have changed since then. Florida's lost some guys. There's no Hurston Waldrop. There's no BT Ryopel. There's no Wyatt Langford anymore. But for South Carolina, they have to, you can't let it just be solely revenge. You also have to go out there and play good baseball. And I think this weekend, look, whoever wins this series this weekend, it is almost like a super regional in a way, because whoever wins this series kind of gets that momentum back and that swagger back that kind of carries into these last, I think, 5 SEC series of the year. But definitely there is revenge on the minds of South Carolina, but I think you have to, at the end of the day, you have to go out there and try to play good baseball, whether it's about revenge or not.
Well, it should be a good one. Looking forward to it. Safe travels down there, and we'll check in with you next week, hopefully talking about a series victory as we get set for a couple of very tough teams in Kentucky and Arkansas the next couple of weeks.
The Game Network in Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.5 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach.
100.3 The Game.
Congrats to the Gamecocks women on another national championship.
Here's corner, comes to Raven for 3. Bang, got it.
Undefeated.
On the dribble drive this time, floats it up and in.
Perfect for the season.
They're dribbling right. It's past Full Wiley blocks her from behind to the layup.
Capping it off with the 2024 national championship. Congrats, y'all, on the Game Network.
This is Andrew Bogish with a CBS Sports Minute. 36-year-old Sidney Crosby is having a good week. His Penguins have climbed into a wild card spot. His fellow players just voted him the most complete player in the league in his 19th season. And last night, Crosby reached 10th all-time in scoring and became the 14th player ever with 1,000 career assists. He is the 7th to do that with one franchise. I'm Andrew Bogish.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone. I went through it a while back. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text. Text REP to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text REP to 321-321. That's REP to 321-321.
Products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has a new rolling jackpot, and trust me, our state hasn't seen anything this big before.
How big? Harbortown Lighthouse big?
Bigger.
Bigger than the Ravenel Bridge?
Even bigger.
Not bigger than Table Rock.
With this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today. Check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy. Text GRIT to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text GRIT to 42424. That's GRIT to 42424.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Bill Gunner for Dr. Dan Balknight and the Men's Clinic. Getting older is never fun. You start experiencing some symptoms that you're not accustomed to. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe it's low energy level. Maybe it's lack of drive and motivation. But at the Men's Clinic, Dr. Dan Balknight is ready to help you with an individualized treatment that will treat your needs. So give him a phone call today, 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS, or visit him on the web for more information, mensclinicsc.com.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head along with you. We are out at TEC Equipment Rental, 2025 Old Dunbar Road out here in West Columbia. Going for another hour as we wrap up hour number 2. I'm joined, if you're watching us on the live stream, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, you can see it, by Jason and Rusty from out here at TEC Equipment Rental. First of all, appreciate you guys taking a few minutes of your time. You're just telling me you guys only been out here for about 6 months?
Yeah, we've been open since middle of October last year. New location added to our Orangeburg and Somerville location. So, yeah, about 6 months or so. And we appreciate you guys coming out today and spending some time with us and our customers and everything.
No, absolutely. I saw you're giving stuff away. There's food over there. This is my kind of party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got Hudson Barbecue out here for a few more minutes. We got a few door prizes left. We've had a pretty good crowd so far. So we'll be here till 3:30 today. Absolutely. Come on out and join us.
As I was driving in, I was admiring all the different types of things that you can come here and rent. It seems like you guys have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we kind of service everybody from the, we like to call weekend warriors, project people at home, all the way up to your bigger companies that are doing highway work. Rusty can probably tell you a little bit also about what some of the things we offer, from lifts and skid steers and mini excavators. We're like to be a one-stop shop, so we pretty much can either have everything you need, or we can get our hands on anything you need to finish any kind of project or anything like that.
Any more details on that?
Just anything you need, we've got it. I mean,
well,
we don't have it. We try to find a way to get it.
Yeah, and we sell parts, and we service all of our own equipment, and we service equipment we don't sell. So that's another aspect of our business we like to tell people about, that, if we don't sell your brand of equipment, we'll still work on it. We got, years of experience in our parts and service departments at all locations. So we want to be your one-stop shop for everything equipment related.
How many other locations do y'all have?
2 right now in Orangeburg,
okay,
on Citadel Road, and Somerville address
is 1100 Business Park Road.
Business Park Road, yes.
How did you come about getting one out here in Columbia?
We just seen the need in the market. Columbia's a little bit bigger market. That allows us to reach the upstate and some of our customers in that location. And, we have future plans to expand up there, but give us a little bit more reach all across the state so we can reach everybody.
And how's it going through those first 6 months?
Pretty well. We're growing our customer base here. We're still getting our name out with events like this, and
right,
with you guys at 107.5 with our partnership we have there. So we're gaining momentum. We're getting there. We're getting where we want to be. But we just want a chance to gain everybody's business and show them what we can do, and then show them what TEC is all about. And
I'm assuming you guys are big Gamecock fans.
Most of us.
Most of us.
Most of us. Yeah.
Well, who what else is represented here?
Clemson. I know that's probably not a popular opinion.
That's natural. That's natural.
We got some Furman fans, but mostly Gamecock fans. So
so
absolutely.
I'm sure everybody was excited to see the women win the national championship the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. Those ladies did spectacular. It was something to see.
What is your? How do you think they're going to look this fall in football?
I think Beamer's got a big job ahead of him. A lot of unknowns at important positions. Quarterback's going to be interesting. I know Sellers is coming in, and a lot of people putting their trust in him. But the transfer from Auburn, I know, is coming in. So I think Ashford's going to give a little bit more competition than people think. Just my personal opinion.
I'll tell you, I've actually kind of been impressed with him. The stuff we've heard from him in the media and stuff like that. Smart guy, just needs a little bit of development. I think it's going to be a long going fight over the camp and everything like that.
Absolutely, I agree.
You guys gonna make it out the spring game next weekend?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some. We got a lot of guys that are into football, so I'm absolutely sure somebody will be out there. Yeah, definitely.
So, if anybody wants to work with you guys, what kind of details they need to know about this place?
Basically, the main thing, we're located at 2025 Old Dunbar Road, West Columbia. Our number is 803-809-4450. My personal cell phone, I'm the branch manager here, is 803-928-0002. We're open 7 to 4:30 every day during the week, closed on the weekends, but call us anytime. I mean, that's part of what we do is we're on call all the time, and we'll take care of your needs anytime you need something.
Do you have
our service? Yes, sir.
Do you have a favorite piece of equipment that you guys have out here?
My main favorites are anything that stays on the ground. I'm not much on the list, so but yeah, bulldozer can do some damage. They're fun to run, and skid steers, obviously, it's all fun. We're all, adults playing with toys like we were kids. These are just a lot more expensive and a lot more fun.
So I can't get you on one of those things over there that we
no,
have right outside the doors
I
here.
There's enough people here to do that. But
It's okay. I'm afraid of heights too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But again, man, we appreciate you guys having us out here. This has been a great time today, and hopefully do plenty more things out here. And again, you guys have only been out here for 6 months, but it seems like you're already making quite the impact.
Absolutely. And, we just want everybody to know that we're here for you, and give us a call, see what we can do with you and work something out. And once again, we appreciate you guys coming out today and supporting us and
absolutely
our open house. And like I say, we'll be here till 3:30. So anybody wants to come on out, come on out.
I was gonna say, and personally, I just love being able to come out in communities, meet people, and see these things kind of, and at the ground level is, I guess, kind of the best way to put it. And see folks, and we get people to come in up and get T-shirts and koozies and all that kind of stuff. So I love doing these kind of things. Appreciate you guys having us out here.
Sure, man. Appreciate it, Tyler.
All right, well, that'll do it for hour number 2. Again, this is Jason and Rusty from TEC Equipment Rentals. We are out at 2025 Old Dunbar Road. Still have another hour to go. We'll jump back into some more conversation of what's going on with this Kentucky head coaching job, and Mark Pope coming in as the new head coach from BYU to take over out there at Kentucky, as well as get into the greatest day in the history of the world and talk a little bit of Masters as well coming up in hour number 3. Again, Tyler Head broadcasting live at TEC Equipment Rentals, 2025 Old Dunbar Road in West Columbia, going until 3 here on the game.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
Snakes, rodents, and mold all live and grow beneath your home and eventually will find their way inside. Canty Foundation Specialist is your local trusted expert in crawl space sealing. Call us today for a free estimate.
Canty can fix it.
Moisture and high humidity in your crawl space create an environment for mold and mildew and affect the air you breathe inside your home. Call Canty for a free inspection today at 753-1495 or visit cantycanfixit.com.
Hey, this is Jen Jensen for CHW Cabinetry. My family is using CHW Cabinetry, and they are fantastic to work with. They make sure you're satisfied with every step of the process. Not only do their photorealistic renderings show exactly what your new space will look like, their job site guarantees everyone is on the same page, literally. Experience the CHW difference for yourself. Go to chwcabinetry.com to see more or call them at 803-520-6837 and be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation.
Now you see them. That's right. Those weeds in your grass. And that's because you didn't have Midland's Landscape and Lawns treat your lawn. Hey, this is Paul Romanstein, proud owner of Midland's Landscape and Lawns. Let us take care of those weeds in the grass. Let us get that grass healthy and ready for this season. You know you want a green plush lawn? Let the pros take care of it. Somebody who's local, somebody dependable, and somebody that cares. That's Midland's Landscape and Lawns. You can find us at hateweeds.com. hateweeds.com.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to speak?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 10 minutes a day.
10 minutes isn't long.
Nope, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make languages fun and engaging. You might even forget you're learning. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. Babbel teaches language skills you'll actually use, about travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you having real conversations in as little as 3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are voiced by real native speakers, you'll get pronunciation just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
Get Babbel. It starts here. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
When it comes to comfort, you can rely on Brian's Heating and Cooling. Here's Tara Davis.
I came home from a vacation one summer and our air was out. I called Brian and they responded promptly and were able to take care of the problem. Since then, they are my go-to heating and cooling resource. Because of their service agreement, it gives me peace of mind. I know if I have any issues, I can call them and they'll respond promptly. I love having that trust and confidence in their service.
Call Brian's Heating and Cooling at 796-1788.
Hey, this is Brian Glenn with Village Idiot Pizza. For over 30 years, we've been proud supporters of all Gamecock athletics and the spot to be at for all your pre- and post-game food and fun. There's also not a bad seat in the house for all televised events. So bring your friends and help us cheer on our University of South Carolina Gamecocks. Don't forget about our Wednesday special, buy one, get one free large pizzas in 5 Points and Olympia at the Mills. Village Idiot Pizza.
Hey, this is former Gamecock Preston Thorne to talk to you about the Beyond Now Foundation as they present their first annual charity golf tournament. It'll be April 22nd at the Woodlands Golf and Country Club. Former Gamecock and NFL player, my teammate, John Austin, and his wife, Nika, have established Beyond Now Foundation to make a difference in the lives of underserved students. The shotgun start is at 10 a.m., and they'll have great prizes for closest to the pin and the longest drive. Contact John Austin to register or to donate at Instagram beyondnow.tv.
WNKT-FM, Eastover, Columbia.
The home of the national champion, Gamecocks women's basketball team. Congrats, y'all.
A Cumulus media station.
What's trending at 2?
Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions.
2 locations in Lexington and Sandhills on the Halftime Show. Your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia. 107.5 The Game. Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach and 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Hour number 3, welcome back in. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head along with you, again, broadcasting live out at TEC Equipment Rentals, 2025 Old Dunbar Road. Again, appreciate Jason and Rusty for hopping on with me for a couple minutes, wrapping up that last hour there. It is 2 o'clock. That means it is time to hit the headlines going on around the world of sports. We'll check it on the Masters real quick as things are progressing along in round number 2. Has got some shuffling atop the leaderboard. I know I'm going to mispronounce his name, so please forgive me, but Nikolai Hojgaard, Denmark, forgive me if I mispronounce that, currently tied at the top, got a 4-way tie at the top right now at 6 under par with Hojgaard, Max Homa, Bryson DeChambeau, and Scotty Scheffler, again, all at 6 under. Scotty Scheffler just teeing off to start his second round play. DeChambeau currently through 6 right now. Homa is through 14, and Hajgard is through 14 holes as of right now. Again, they'll be halfway through the Masters tournament once they complete that second round. Let's scroll back through here and see how Tiger Woods is doing. I did see he had a good hole a little bit earlier on, as he was at 1 over last I checked here. Okay, still sitting at 1 over through 12. So trying to make that cut for Tiger Woods on what has been a very interesting time for him, obviously, where he's had the ups and downs, he's had the injuries, but man, anytime, because he birdied that hole yesterday on hole number 1, and anytime you get the little inkling that Tiger might be making things interesting, you just have the swarm of people that jump on it and tune in, because regardless of how old he is or how good he might still be, he still moves ratings at the end of the day. So good to see Tiger out there putting in hopefully a good performance over the course of the Masters tournament here. As we continue on with the headlines, perhaps there's no bigger headline in the past couple days than what's been going on with the Kentucky head coaching search that's now come to an end, as Mark Pope has officially been named the head coach at the University of Kentucky. Put out a statement a little bit earlier on this morning, officially confirming that, as he will take over there in Lexington, a place that he played before. Obviously, he was an alumni of the University of Kentucky, playing back in the day, and now has the opportunity to go back home. And from that standpoint, you understand it, because, hey, it's always cool when somebody can go back and play for their hometown team. But at the same time, it does not seem like the Kentucky fan base is all too pleased with Mark Pope becoming their new head coach. I thought it was funny. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I've been texting back and forth with my friend Kristen. She's a mega Kentucky basketball fan, the only one that I really know personally. And, going back to when they lost to Oakland the first round of the NCAA tournament, to, what she thought they should do about Calipari, and up to him leaving for Arkansas the other day, I've been continually checking in with her, kind of getting her thoughts and her perspective, on what she thinks they should end up doing. And I texted her this morning, because once we found out Mark Pope was going to be the head coach last night, I just wanted to get her thoughts. And as I'm typing out the message to her, which is just Mark Pope period thoughts question mark, in the process of typing out Pope, I almost typed Mark Poop. So I almost said Mark Poop thoughts question mark. And again, I laughed for probably about 5 minutes because I have the humor of a 12-year-old. But I think that almost kind of speaks volumes to how the Kentucky fan base feels about this hire right now, because the message boards for KSR are melting down because people are not happy with this hire. And I think I found one this morning going through message board geniuses on Twitter that I think perfectly encapsulates the overall feeling that people have about this hire. Because remember, they were trying to run John Calipari out of town, because when you're at Kentucky, a blue blood of college basketball, and you can't get back to a Final Four and you haven't had a national championship in 12 years, that is not going to sit well with your fan base, and it has not with the Kentucky fan base by any means. So they've been pushing for him to be fired or move on for a while now. But I came across this post on their KSR message board, and it says, the title of it is Maybe We Were Irrational by J-Bev. And it says, we thought Cal was the girlfriend who got ugly. We treated him terribly until he finally walked out the door, went after some beautiful woman we thought we could get, got turned down, then saw a picture of the exact same Cal on Twitter and started to realize just how pretty he was. We couldn't see it because we were together too long. That's what today feels like. I've thought Cal was hideous these past 5 years, but today he seems like he was actually kind of cute the entire time. I think that's the perfect way to sum that up, because it's one of those things of be careful what you wish for, because it might end up coming true. And as much as Kentucky fans have lauded and hoped for John Calipari to either get fired or move on to another job, well, here comes Arkansas with a boatload of money saying, hey, come coach for us. We're going to give you this big budget for NIL. And it's going to be fantastic, right? So he goes, and they're having parades out in the streets of Lexington saying he's finally gone. We finally moved on from Coach Calipari, and baseball on the mind. We finally moved on from John Calipari. Now let's go out there and get the best coach in the country to come in and lead us to great heights once again. And that's why you saw people saying, oh, well, Dan Hurley and Scott Drew and Billy Donovan and guys like that were just expected to be wanting to want to waltz in and take the Kentucky job because it's such a premier job in college sports, but you also have to pair that up with the expectations that fan base puts on their basketball program. If you're not the right guy, or even if you are the right guy, but you don't want to deal with that fan base and that culture out there, you can get chewed up and spit out real quick if you're not careful. And, it wasn't just the fan base that was out there, parading, saying, oh, we need to go get Dan Hurley and stuff like that. Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio. So this is an insider that has intimate knowledge of their head coaching search. The other day when Calipari officially went to Arkansas, he tweeted this out. He said, Kentucky's list is Danny Hurley, Scott Drew, and Billy Donovan. I would be surprised if it got past number 2. Well, guess what? Dan Hurley laughed at the thought of going to Kentucky after winning a national championship at UConn, which, again, dude is set. Like, he does not need to go anywhere else. He will be at Kentucky for a very long time. Scott Drew, who turned the job down yesterday officially with a statement about staying in Waco and continuing to coach Baylor, he's got it made. He's been there for 20 freaking years. He's set down his roots in Waco, and there's no reason why he should move on. He won a national championship a couple years ago. Yes, they've not done that well in the NCAA tournament since then, but in Waco, you win a national championship, they're going to keep you around for a long time. There is no threat of him losing that job. And yes, the theoretical taking the job at Kentucky would be a little bit higher pay. I don't think it's worth it. Or at least in his opinion, it wasn't worth it to deal with that fan base and the rabidness of, hey, if you take the Kentucky job and you're not in the Final Four within 3 years, then they're ready to run you out of town already. I don't know why you would want to deal with that if you already have a good, solid job, at a place like Waco. And Billy Donovan, he says they didn't reach out to him. I'm sure they did, but why would Billy Donovan, who is with the Bulls right now in the NBA, why would he want to come back to college basketball, especially with everything going on now as far as the transfer portal and NIL and all those kind of things you have to deal with that he wasn't dealing with years and years ago, when he was last coaching in college. Like, he's got it, I wouldn't say have it made in the NBA, but he doesn't have to deal with all those things. He can just primarily focus on coaching basketball, which is appealing to a lot of people at the end of the day. So he was not interested. Nate Oates said he was not interested and all that stuff. So then they land on Mark Pope. And again, he's an alumni, which that's cool. It's always nice to somebody be able to go back to their alma mater. But when you look at what you expect the head coach at Kentucky to be in terms of his resume and what he's done up to this point, he just doesn't match up. And I can understand why that fan base is upset because, at least with John Calipari, he had a run of success prior to getting to Kentucky as far as the NCAA tournament is concerned, because he was, of course, at Memphis for pretty much a decade before he ever came to Kentucky. And in that time at Memphis, in consecutive years, Elite Eight, runner-up in the Final Four, and then Sweet 16. So that's a great run of success in the NCAA tournament, which then catapulted him into taking over that Kentucky job, which made a lot of sense. But when you look at Mark Pope, these resumes couldn't be more dichotomically different. And I'm not saying that Mark Pope isn't a good coach, but I don't know if he's quite to the level and the caliber that they're going to be expecting out there in Kentucky, especially when you look at his tournament resume. Utah Valley, years ago, CBI a couple times, made some deep runs in that. Who cares? In his time at BYU, which was started in 2019, didn't have a tournament the first year because of COVID, gets bounced in the round of 64 in year number 2, makes it to the NIT quarterfinals in year number 3. Who cares about that? Doesn't make the tournament last year and gets bounced in the round of 64 again this year. This guy does not have a win in the NCAA tournament. Like, I'm not, I very rarely will side with the Kentucky fan base on things, but I can understand why they are upset. Because, again, this is a program that they hold in a very high regard that has high caliber McDonald's All-American talent on a year in, year out basis. And you're bringing in a guy in there that hasn't quite proven to be up to the caliber of what this job is, what we think that job is, to lead it to deep runs in the NCAA tournament like John Calipari was failing to do, which is why he was going to be able to coach there again. But, if they had made another poor showing in the tournament, next year, if he stuck around, he likely was going to be moved on from, as they were trying to build up that $33 million buyout that ended up being kind of the caveat as to why they weren't able to make that move beforehand. And I think Mark Pope is a good regular season coach. He'll get his time at BYU between being in the West Coast Conference and then this past year being in the Big 12. His regular seasons have been good. He's routinely winning 20 games. He went 23-11 in this year. and ended up 5th in the Big 12, which again is the toughest conference in all of college basketball. So there's something to be said about that. But if you're not able to make things happen in the tournament, they're going to chew you up and spit you out of Kentucky. Now, again, he's somebody that played on the basketball team. He understands that fan base very, very well. But, man, I just don't see this going very well for Mark Pope out there at Kentucky. And, again, the fan base already upset about the fact that he's being hired, and they're just going to be looking for any reason to jump down his throat on anything because they don't think that he's a serviceable fit to take over this job. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out there in Lexington as the message boards are melting down as we speak today, as those fans are none too happy about Mark Pope getting hired there as their new head coach. And just in the same vein, I'm interested to see how things go with John Calipari out of Kentucky, because now he's going to have this NIL budget, which, not to say that Kentucky didn't have NIL, but very much like Alabama, where I talked with Dimitri in the last hour, it kind of had this reputation that, you go there, you play with Coach Calipari, and you're going to be able to go and be an NBA lottery pick as a one and done and pretty quick turnaround, where the NIL stuff wasn't as big of a factor up there. But literally, Arkansas backs up the Brinks truck to him and says, hey, we're going to give you a $5 million NIL budget to go get whatever talent you can. I can see how that'd be enticing to him. So we'll see what happens with Coach Calipari out there in Kentucky, as well as Mark Pope in his first, or Coach Calipari at Arkansas. See, I got used to saying that. And Mark Pope in his first year out there in Arkansas. Real quick, want to remind you, as always, the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. Headline to 1075thegame.com. Register for your chance to win Gamecock Hitter Hits Grand Slam. You could be the lucky recipient of all the money in the pot. It's over $800 as we head into the series this weekend, taking on the Florida Gators. I talked to my buddy Jeff Dantzler from the Superstations on Georgia Sports Radio a little bit earlier on this morning. He is an expert when it comes to all things golf. We'll react that conversation. Let's hear what he had to say as he discussed the Masters. Coming up next is the halftime show. Tyler Head out at TEC Equipment Rentals, 2025 Old Dunbar Road, out here in West Columbia, going until 3 on the game.
From the Midlands to the PD to the beach.
The Game Network.
Download the 1075 The Game app and listen anywhere. The beach, the gym, and yes, even there. Go to iTunes or Google Play and snag the 1075 The Game app. 1075 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Discover Herndon Certified. Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence, knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile.
That is the sound of my husband knocking a wasp nest off our patio. We should have called Dodson Pest Control. They can easily handle anything that stings, and they've been doing it for 80 years.
Visit DodsonBROS.com.
Hey, it's Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Beat the seasons with AAA Heating and Air in the South Carolina Midlands. Need a system upgrade? Get a free replacement estimate today. Worried about cost? Don't be. With their guaranteed financing options, comfort is always within your budget, especially with their new 12 months of no payments or interest in 2024. Plus, enjoy the assurance of a 15-year parts and labor warranty. Ready for an instant quote? Visit their website today and tell them Bill Gunner with 1075 The Game sent you.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Let's go inside the nest.
Hey, my name is Danny Johnson with RDJ Remodeling. Recently, I got a custom job of a lifetime. This project was going to demand a group of professionals who I could count on to understand the speed of business and get us answers in a timely manner. Rachel at the Nest and all of her coworkers, including the guys at the warehouse, have gone out of their way to be helpful. Their pricing has been in line with our expectations. Found a business I can count on. The Nest has truly been great to work with. Thank you, guys.
Come see for yourself at the Nest, 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista.
Honey, look, the hookers. They've moved off the highway and now they're all over the parking lot.
What are all those Schroeder's towing trucks doing in that parking lot, though?
Must be towing all those unauthorized cars parked in the lot. Good thing the business owner called Schroeder's Towing to keep their parking lot clear for just their customers. Didn't those cars see the free signage that Schroeder's provides to business owners to deter unauthorized parking?
I guess not.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com
Oh, I'm ready!
and get ready for the workday.
Free. Who doesn't love free? With Milo's Rewards, you get the member-only treatment that's actually worth it. Enjoy free member gifts you'll love. And once you reach Silver Key status, you can get free standard shipping. Because Lowe's knows nothing feels better than free. Learn more about our new loyalty program at Lowe's.com/MyLowe's Rewards today. Program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details. Member gifts may be subject to additional terms and restrictions. See Lowe's.com/shipping terms for details. Subject to change.
Hey, this is Terry Ford with 107.5
Whoa,
The Game.
whoa. You're not Terry Ford from 107.5 The Game. Are you even looking at the script, Brian
okay,
Glenn?
my bad. You go.
And first of all, you don't want to be Terry Ford from 107.5 The Game.
Fair enough.
Okay, who are you?
This is Brian Glenn with Village Idiot Pizza. At the Village Idiot, we're proud to offer locally owned Columbia locations serving fresh New York-style pizza for over 30 years. Join us for a game or just to hang with friends. Pizza, wings, and cold beer are the best way to come together and celebrate life. Don't be an idiot. Eat local with the Village Idiot. 2 locations, 5 Points, and Olympia at the Mills.
I'm with Jason Reynolds of the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm. Jason, what makes your firm different?
I think the way we present ourselves and treat our clients makes us different. We don't show injured workers, horrible vehicle accidents, or stacks of cash in our advertising. That's because injuries really affect people's lives, and we take that seriously. Our clients come to us in their toughest times, and we're truly committed to helping them in every way possible.
Samuels Reynolds. True injuries, true lawyers. 803-779-4000.
Got something to say?
Ring us up on the Love Chevy phone line. South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer.
At 803-404-6100.
Your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game. The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence. And the 107.5 The Game app.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you on this Friday morning here on The Game. And it's going to be an exciting weekend. A lot of that revolving around the Masters out there at Augusta National. Always excited to talk some golf with my buddy Jeff Dantzler, host of the Jeff Dantzler Show on the Superstations on the Georgia Sports Radio Network. Jeff, appreciate your time as always. And a little bit of rain that pushed through yesterday, but watching the early round or the conclusion of the first round today and looking ahead at the rest of the weekend, going to be absolutely beautiful and picturesque for a great weekend of golf out there at Augusta National.
Well, it sure will, my friend. And I'm great to be on with you this morning, as always. And I think what you're seeing this morning, and sometimes in golf, it can come down to the luck of the draw. If you go off early Thursday and late Friday or vice versa, sometimes you can get burned, and the wind is obviously a huge factor. I'm sure you're feeling over in Columbia, and it was howling this morning, and it affected a lot of players, including Brian Harmon, Georgia alum, who won the British Open and really struggled on the second 9. Jordan Spieth made a quad bogey on number 15. So for the best of the best, it can get them. And a lot of times in golf, and especially at the Masters, it's about surviving those rough patches and then giving yourself a chance. And I think this morning was a prime example. Nobody was going to win the tournament this morning, but you sure could lose it.
Absolutely. We saw Tiger Woods slipping a couple of holes here in the later rounds of the later holes of the first round as he concluded this morning thanks to that weather delay yesterday. And we'll get to him in just a moment. I do want to start off with this, though. Scottie Scheffler coming in red hot to this year's Masters, much like he did back in 2022 when they won the whole thing, been the top of the world golf rankings for a while now. A lot of people think this is his Masters to lose, currently sitting one stroke behind Bryson DeChambeau through one round so far. What is your view of Scottie Scheffler and his opportunity to win this weekend?
Well, he was certainly amongst the favorites. I thought the 4 big favorites, and 3 of them are pretty much out of the picture. So, Tyler, I'm glad I didn't bet all your money on that one. But I thought Matsuyama, Scheffler, and Rahm, the 3 most recent champions, and Koepka were the 4 favorites coming in my mind. And Scheffler, once again, has jumped up. And when you look at what he's done, he's defying some history here. Nobody had ever won the Players' Championship back-to-back. He's done that. Only one player's ever won the Masters and the Players in the same year. That was Tiger Woods back in 2001. And Scheffler's put himself in a position to do that. He's been so good, and I'm about to use only in air quotes here. You do have to remind yourself he's only won the one major, the 2022 Masters. He's knocked on the door at a U.S. Open. He's knocked on the door at a PGA. And, of course, he's won the two Players' Championships. But with Scheffler, with his complete game, the biggest word in the English language has two letters, if his putting is somewhere from decent to good, I think he's the guy to beat because the ball striking and his placement, it's just exquisite right now.
Again, talking to my buddy Jeff Dantzler, host of the Jeff Dantzler Show on the Superstations across South Georgia. And it goes without saying, this is obviously a very, very hard tournament to win. You mentioned Jon Rahm coming in as one of the favorites after picking up the victory a season ago, currently sitting at 1 over through the first round of play. And history, at least recent history, has not been kind to Masters winners the next year. A lot of those guys struggling to crack the top 10. Some of them don't even make the cut the year following. Why is it so hard to have a follow-up performance at the Masters?
I just think there's so much that goes into it. The great Seve Ballesteros, who was one of Jon Rahm's heroes, the famous Spaniard. Seve won the green jacket in 80 and 83 and missed the cut the next year both times. I think hosting the Champions Dinner, there's maybe a little bit more pressure that goes with that. And that's a great stat you pull up. And in fact, Tyler, if you go back to 2011, the 2011 Masters, Mickelson won it in 2010. Going back to Charles Schwartzel's win in 2011, of the last 13 Masters, 9 of the winners have been first-time major winners, and 11 of the 13, it's been their first Masters. Dustin Johnson won in 2020. He had won a U.S. Open. Rahm won last year. He had also won a U.S. Open. So the only repeat winners over that time are Bubba Watson, another Georgia golfer, who won it in 2014 as well as 2012, and then Tiger, who won his 5th green jacket in 2019. So it's just one of those trends, and this tends to happen at the Masters. I mean, there was a stretch there from 51 to 54. It went Hogan Snead. From 60 through 66, it went Palmer, Player, Palmer, Nicklaus, Palmer, Nicklaus. And then you had that great stretch from the late 70s through the early 80s where you went Nicklaus to Raymond Floyd to Tom Watson, to Gary Player, to Fuzzy, to Seve, back to Watson again. And then, of course, you had the runs that Tiger and Phil had in the 0-0s. It went Phil, Tiger, Phil from 04 to 06. And right now we're just in one of those stretches where you're just having a lot of really good players having that breakthrough come at Augusta.
Well, Bryson DeChambeau, as I mentioned, sitting at the top of the leaderboard after one round. He has a major win to his credit at the U.S. Open back in 2020. I was listening to his presser yesterday after round number 1, and he was talking about the live schedule benefiting him a little bit more when it comes to a tournament like this. Do you believe something like that could be the case, that maybe playing a little bit less golf on the live tour actually benefits you in a tournament like this?
Well, for whatever suits different people, I don't think you've seen a huge effect. Koepka won the PGA last year because they're playing 54 holes. And I have a hard time watching the live. It comes on the CW, and his Club Pro guy wrote, if they run over the allotted time, it gets bumped for One Tree Hill. But just when it comes on, seeing the guys in shorts throws me off. And then also just that leaderboard down the left side, Tyler, I feel like I'm watching a NASCAR race there. So I think, like most golf fans, we just haven't paid a whole lot of attention to live. Maybe not going through the grind as much as that week to week. There could be something to that. Now, it's also it's a 54-hole event. So is that going to translate playing that extra 18? We'll see. DeChambeau, love him, not like him, whatever it is, he's definitely one of the more polarizing figures out there, probably second only to Patrick Reed when it comes to the number of just genuine dislikes by golf fans for whatever reason. But he's got the game to do it. And, he came out just firing hot yesterday. We'll see if he can keep that up. And and at the very least keep himself into contention. But he's put himself in position, no doubt.
Last one for you here. Got a slided Tiger question in. Started off really well yesterday with that birdie on hole number 1, and was holding pretty strong through the first, over half of the first round. But again, had to wrap up his first round today thanks to that weather delay yesterday. Slipped on the last couple of holes. Is currently sitting at 1 over right now. But a lot of people weren't expecting a whole lot of Tiger Woods this weekend. May not even make it through second round in a lot of people's eyes. What have you seen from Tiger so far? Through one round of play.
He just gets those competitive juices flowing. And if he is able to make the cut, he would break the record that he now shares with Fred Couples and Gary Player for the most consecutive cuts made, which is sitting at 23. Now, this is his 26th start in a Masters. And basically for Tiger now, he's 48 years old, coming off all the injuries and the surgeries. I'd still think because it's generally flatter, he can be competitive at the British Open, but if it gets too cold, that back can seize up. I think the U.S. Open and the PGA, the conditions are just really, really tough. But I think for him, he does have a chance to make the cut. Now, then if you're talking about the odds are he would finish near the bottom of the players who made the cut, just because I think that the grind is too arduous. I mean, Augusta National, it's hilly, it's steep, it's tough to get around. And the fact that he's out there with all the injuries he's had and he's still able to compete, I think is extremely impressive.
Well, certainly going to be a lot of eyes on Tiger this weekend. Hopefully you enjoy catching all the Masters stuff yourself. I know it's your favorite weekend of the year.
It's sure, just like you with Daytona. And actually, Georgia baseball, David Johnson and I call the Bulldog baseball games just like Derek Scott does for South Carolina. And we've got a Thursday through Saturday series, so I'll be over there Sunday. And I do want to pass on. It's the first time I've been on you since. And I know, Tyler, so many of us around the SEC, just our condolences to the Gamecock Nation for the loss of Tommy Moody. He was a friend to all. And I had actually been texting with Tommy about 7-8 days before he passed away. He found a picture when he was sitting on the front row of the famous 1980 Georgia-South Carolina game with Herschel Walker and George Rogers. And it was just heartbreaking news. And I know we're all missing him this baseball season.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate the sentiments there, Jeff, and we'll check in with you here in a couple weeks as we get set for South Carolina taking on Georgia on the baseball diamond. Appreciate it as always, buddy.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network.
Congrats to the Gamecocks women on another national championship.
Near corner comes the Raven for three. Bang, got it.
Undefeated.
On the dribble drive this time, floats it up and in.
Perfect for the season.
They're dribbling right. Gets past Full Wiley blocks her from behind to the layup.
Capping it off with the 2024 national championship. Congrats, y'all,
on the Game Network.
Get your rear end gear, Midlands, and come on out Saturday, April 20th to Irmo Community Park for the only 5K benefiting colon cancer education and research. Grab your family and friends and form your own team. There'll be a kids fun run, a timed 5K run, and a 5K walk. They'll have food trucks, live music, and a 25-foot inflatable walk through colon. Colon cancer survivors and fighters can register for free, and be sure to stop by the survivor booth at the race. Go to coloncancercoalition.org/Columbia and register today. Ad paid for by Paradigm Broadcasting.
Need work but not finding anything requiring skill or experience?
Yeah, I need a job where I can continue to grow, not start over flipping burgers.
Do you like working with your hands?
Yes.
Have you managed a team or operations before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you're exactly who we're looking for.
If this sounds like you, Georgia Pacific Clarendon OSB is hiring. Many positions are available ranging from production to administration. Give them a call today at 803-505-4414 or find them online at georgiapacific.com/careers.
What you're talking about.
Brought to you by Love Chevy, where the inventory is overflowing and the deals are in full bloom. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
This is Larry Lightner, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing.
and for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operation. From high-rise to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Midstate Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And this is Blake Liner, reminding you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Call me today at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. That's midstateroofing.com.
You'll speak to an on-call technician after hours or a Midstate Roofing staff member during hours at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twins.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Do you have a ton of spring projects lined up? How's that honeydew list looking? Hey y'all, it's Ben Cato from Cato's Power Equipment. We know yard work isn't always fun, but when you have the right tools, taming your lawn can be a breeze. Not sure how you're going to keep that yard tamed? Come to Cato's, where we have a huge selection of steel string trimmers, hedge trimmers, edgers, blowers, chainsaws, and more. Tired of worrying about your equipment cranking? Skip the gas and join the hundreds of happy customers who have made the switch to steel battery equipment. All of the power and none of the hassle. You're not sure battery's right for you? We have demos and rentals available for any customer to take home and try before you buy. Whatever your yard care needs are, do what the professionals do. Shop at Cato's Power Equipment for expert advice, great pricing, and top-notch service. Cato's Power Equipment. Always online at www.catospowerequipment.com.
Spring is in the air, and it's the perfect time to give your home a refresh. At Dan's Fan City in Harbison, we're celebrating spring cleaning with amazing deals on floor samples, closeouts, and overstocks. Whether you're looking to upgrade your ceiling fans or add a new one to your space, Dan's Fan City has you covered. Stop by our store or give us a call at 781-FANS to take advantage of these fantastic offers. Don't miss out on the chance to save big and elevate your home's comfort and style with Dan's Fan City on Harbison Boulevard.
It's back and better than ever. The Craft Beer Passport.
A sweet deal so sweet, it's the sweetest deal.
With each Craft Beer Passport, get $30 to spend at 12 Midlands craft breweries and restaurants. It's a $360 value for only $79. Use it 3 times and you've more than covered your cost.
Then you still have 9 more times to use it.
There are 2 cards to choose from, or get them both. Head over to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals and get your Craft Beer Passport.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
The greatest day in the history of the world. On the Halftime Show, it's sponsored by 1-800-GET-JUNK. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
Welcome back in. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, again, broadcasting live out at TEC Equipment Rentals here. 2025 Old Dunbar Road. A couple more segments to go as we're closing up here. And by the way, if you're watching on the live stream, the Game TV brought to you by our friends over at Shepherd's Glass, you can see I have a wonderful TEC Equipment Rentals hat on now. So I appreciate the guys here for hooking me up with that. I'm a sucker for a free hat. I literally, my wife can attest to this, have a box full of them in our closet. Some of them that I've not worn in a while that I occasionally have to dig out from the bottom to start wearing again because I just have so many. So, yes, I'm a sucker for a free hat anytime I can get one. So we'll be proudly representing our friends over at TEC Equipment Rentals with this hat as much as I can. It is indeed time for the greatest day in the history of the world. A couple stadium-related things going to be talking about today as I was doing my research for this bit. In 1960, Chicago White Sox owner Bill Veeck debuts the exploding scoreboard at Chicago's Comiskey Park. Now, if you have never been to Comiskey Park or never seen Comiskey Park, it's basically this, I'm trying to find the best way to describe it. It's these things on the top of the scoreboard, the kind of pinwheel and kind of fireworky type displays. Whenever somebody hits a home run or anything like that, something big happens, they win the game. And it is certainly a unique feature that is only seen at a place like Comiskey Park. And you may ask the question of, well, how do you come up with something crazy like that? Funny enough, you actually saw it in a movie. So back in the day when they were in the process of building Comiskey Park, Veek was watching the movie The Time of Your Life, starring James Cagney, and apparently there's a scene in there where he's playing pinball. And anytime you hit the jackpot on the pinball, all this wild stuff starts happening, lights and sounds, explosions and stuff like that. And he saw that in that movie and said, I want to do that, or I want to bring some element of that to what I do out of Comiskey Park. So they ended up putting that on the scoreboard there out at Comiskey Park, and has become a staple of a Major League Baseball ever since then. And the Braves were playing at Comiskey the other day, and it was kind of rainy and dreary, but they still have the same kind of features on that scoreboard that I think is really, really cool, seeing that legacy continue on there. But a pretty unique way that they came up to that. 1966, Atlanta Braves play their first game in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium as the stadium officially opens. They defeat the Pirates 3-2 in that game. And for anybody that grew up a Braves fan, or if you lived in the Atlanta area, there is a long line of people that have a special affinity for Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Obviously, it was the stadium that helped welcome in Atlanta's first two ever professional sports teams, in the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Falcons, both coming in 1966. And was it perfect? No. Was it, kind of a concrete monstrosity? Yeah. But it had a special charm to it that a lot of people still certainly miss. And I do think it's cool, as I was a kid going to Braves games and stuff at Turner Field, that they still retained the outfield wall from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. It's essentially part of the parking lot now, but you still have the wall out there. And to my knowledge, that they still have the plaque at the plate where Hank Aaron hit his home run, and commemorated that and everything. So it's interesting. I've always been fascinated, really, when it comes to stadium designs and tearing down stadiums, building stadiums, and all that kind of stuff, because we've kind of gotten to this point where stadiums are no longer for the purposes of the sport itself. They are for entertainment purposes. They've become these entertainment, metroplexes, I guess is the best way to use it, where instead of just building something for the purposes of playing football and baseball on it, which is what Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was, and so many other stadiums around the country at that point in time, the Coliseum out in Oakland, RFK Stadium up there in Washington, were built to be multi-use stadiums, so you could have a professional baseball team and a professional football team share the same venue. Obviously, it saves cost, all that kind of stuff. But nowadays, you build everything for the purposes of not just playing football or playing baseball, because we don't have any multi-purpose use stadiums anymore. And when the A's finally leave Oakland, that'll be the last one that is technically still standing. And even then, the Raiders have obviously left a couple of years ago. The Dolphins now still play down there in Miami, where the Marlins used to play, but that's not been a baseball stadium in a long time. But now things are built saying, okay, like Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, since we're talking about Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, when they built that, it was like, yes, we want a venue to play football in for all the Falcons home games, the SEC championship, all that kind of stuff. But we also want to get, Taylor Swift, to be able to come there. We want to have Final Fours, and we want to have monster truck shows and stuff like that. So we now build these stadiums, these monstrosity stadiums for billions and millions of dollars for the purposes of being able to host events year round. And that wasn't really the case back in the day. And yes, a place like Atlanta Fulton County Stadium certainly had concerts and things like that. But it wasn't entertainment minded first, I guess is the best way to look at it, as opposed to how stadiums are now. I think we tear down stadiums too quickly now, to be honest with you. I have a special affinity for the Georgia Dome, and I get it. The Falcons were only tenants of the Georgia Dome. They didn't own the thing. So they wanted a place they could truly call their own. But man, there was a certain charm to the Georgia Dome that's really kind of hard to match, that I just feel like Mercedes-Benz Stadium does not quite have. And for me, it's just never really felt the same since they tore the Georgia Dome down, because it just kind of lacks those same type of characteristics. But that's really cool. This day in 1966, greatest day in the history of the world, the Braves open up Atlanta Fulton County Stadium with a 3-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates. As we move along here, I talked about Sean Elliott a little bit earlier, got some of the cuts that he had from talking to the media yesterday. Also, Jody Camillus, the special teams coordinator, also talked to the media yesterday as well. And I want to slide some things in here. He's coming into a lot of change on the special teams front. And it starts off with the kicking battle they're having to deal with in trying to replace Mitch Jeter. Let's go with cut number 10 here, Ed. Here is Coach D. Camillus talking about that kicking battle so far.
Yeah, unfortunately with Alex, he ended up getting a little bit of a heel injury right before we started. So he's been limited in quite a few practices early on. Ended up hitting some balls today, which was good to see. So it's been a little bit of a struggle for him so far. But the other guys, I'll tell you, Joyce has done a good job for us. Some of the guys that have been here in the past, we've had a good competition so far there, so it's good to see.
So obviously replacing Mitch Jeter, which is not going to be easy, as that was the guy that made 92% of his field goals when he was here at South Carolina. And field goal kicking is one of those things that, you almost kind of take for granted when you have somebody as good as Mitch Jeter was. And yes, he did miss a couple kicks this past season, but special teams as a whole had, kind of taken a little bit of a step back in this past year that certainly needs to be cleaned up going into 2024. But when you don't have that guy that can be automatic that you can count on to make field goals every time you trot him out there, then, it's a little bit worrisome. And again, he mentioned Alex Herrera, who's kind of thought to be the one to take over that role, given that he's been here for so long, is dealing with a little bit of an injury right now. And then you have William Joyce, who's the other option seemingly at kicker out there too. So that's something that's probably going to be an ongoing battle as they go through the spring, summer, and eventually into fall camp, to see who's going to handle those kicking duties as far as field goals and extra points go. Did sound like Mason Love was probably going to be in line to maybe be doing some kickoff type stuff, maybe some punts, as Kai Kroger is, of course, the primary punter as of right now. But Mason Love maybe could end up being the kickoff guy, depending on what they do. Is they have a lot of options within the special teams room, just kind of nailing down who they think the best option is going to be when the season does roll around coming up this fall. And, especially for as daunting of a schedule as South Carolina has, you can't afford to leave any points on the field, whether that be, field goals, extra points, or anything like that. As unfortunately, this past year, last year under Pete Limbo, where special teams is held in such high regard here at South Carolina, beamer ball, limbo ball, all that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't up to the standard that people expected. There were a lot of mistakes made. There was botched snaps, there was missed field goals, extra points, all that kind of stuff, things that you just don't expect out of a well-coached special teams unit like we know this team is. And unfortunately, you did take some of those steps back this season, but you bring in Joe D. Camillus, who, as much as we love Pete Limbo, if you have to replace him, bring in somebody that's been primarily a special teams coordinator at the highest level of football for the past 30 years. And that's what you have in Joe D. Camillus. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do here at South Carolina and, what he can do in terms of hopefully getting special teams, back on the right track. And again, not that they were drastically off, but they made more mistakes than you would think they would have made a season ago. And something you certainly want to see them correct as we get into 2024. Again, broadcasting live at TEC Equipment Rentals, going up until 3. One more segment to go. We'll hit our Firehouse Sub text of the hour and get out of here, as it is the halftime show. Tyler Head flying solo with you here on The Game.
The Game Network in Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.5 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach.
100.3 The Game.
Yes, that phone in your pocket or purse will keep you in touch with your family and friends. It will take great selfies of you on amazing adventures or just this morning's breakfast. And it's pretty good in case of an emergency. But the single most important function of your phone is the game.
But both defenses have been this year. What's so funny?
The noise.
You can listen anywhere. Just go to iTunes or Google Play and download the Game app now.
This is Jim Rome with a CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. Old Trapper, what's your beef? The Big Blue Nation got some big news today. And shock of all shocks, the BBN is big mad about that big news. What else is new? Mark Pope, a former Kentucky Wildcat player, who, by the way, won a natty as a player, is your new head coach. And much of the BBN is disappointed, thinking they should have done better. I'm Jim Rome.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. The ugly truth is when you buy a timeshare, you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. I recently helped a couple that had their maintenance fees go from $800 to $3,200 a year. They also received a $4,000 assessment for a hurricane that was over 1,000 miles away. Sound crazy? The crazy thing is this never ends. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. Call 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
O'Reilly. Is your Moore's battery weak or dead after winter storage? Get your Moore ready for spring lawn maintenance at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, purchase any Superstart lawn and garden battery and get a $10 gift card after rebate. Choose Superstart batteries for power, performance, and reliability exclusively at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-478-6688. That's 1-800-478-6688. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-478-6688. That's 1-800-478-6688.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
The Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
It's time for Text of the Hour on the Firehouse Subs text line on the Halftime Show.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
And the 107.5 The Game app.
All right, welcome back in. It's the Halftime Show. Tyler Head along with you. A couple more minutes to go. Again, we were broadcasting live out at TEC Equipment Rentals. Been out here all afternoon long. Had a great time. Got to meet some great people. Had some great food as well. Always enjoy being able to come out to do these things in the community, and certainly appreciate you guys that come by and see us as well. As we wrap up here, it is indeed time for our Firehouse Subs text of the hour. And going back to the conversation we had a little bit earlier about what's going on with Kentucky and their hiring of Mark Pope as the head coach, Steve in Chapin weighs in and says, was Kentucky looking for a good coach or a good discount? They're looking for a good coach. At the end of the day, money did not seem to be an issue, especially when you consider the fact that John Calipari kind of handled the buyout thing himself, because had they fired John Calipari this past season, they would have had to have paid him the $33 million buyout that he was owed, which is kind of the hang up on why they didn't fire him, because again, the performance is not where they wanted it to be with Kentucky basketball these past couple seasons, especially after getting bounced by another low seed in the round of 64, like they did against Oakland a couple weeks back. So if the buyout would have been zero, they would have moved on with them. You know what I mean? Like, they were ready to, I think, make a change. And I think it speaks volumes to the fact that, John Calipari and Mitch Barnhart, who was the AD up there in Kentucky, weren't even talking to each other in reference to this Arkansas deal as it came through. So it sounds like there's a little bit of bad blood there between those guys. But they wanted to go out there. They wanted to get Dan Hurley. They wanted to get Scott Drew. They wanted to get one of these high-profile guys that popped up earlier on this week in terms of their head coaching search. They just weren't able to land him, and money was no issue. I mean, it was a rumor they were going to offer Dan Hurley $11 million, which is fantastic and enticing to a lot of coaches. But when you think about what you deal with going in there and being the Kentucky head coach, a lot of those guys just didn't want to do it. Didn't want to have to deal with that rabid fan base and the insanely high expectations that were being set for them. Now, yes, if you have somebody that is just overachieving at one of these mid-major programs like John Calipari was at Memphis prior to getting the job at Kentucky, that makes a lot of sense because it's your opportunity to jump up to that next level and get in one of the power conferences. But Terry and I talked about this the other day. That coach, there's really no like prominent coach name out there that really fit that kind of mold. Like, man, this guy's taken mid-major team to Sweet 16s and Elite Eights, in consecutive years and really kind of setting the world on fire despite coming out of a smaller conference. Nobody really fit that mold to be able to take over that job in the way that John Calipari, did now 15 some odd years ago. So you end up having to look around for these guys that are already established coaches at places like UConn, at a place like Baylor. And again, when those guys are already set with what they have there, especially guys like Hurley and Drew that, have won national championships in recent years, why would they want to change the scenery? They can stay right where they're at, have a satisfied fan base, and continue to do what they're doing without having to go in and not necessarily rebuild a program, but kind of start over in a new place, which is what you would have to be doing out there at Kentucky. I honestly thought maybe you go after Bruce Pearl. I thought maybe he was going to be that next option after Scott Drew, obviously somebody that's been very successful, has been at Tennessee, has been at Auburn, been around the SEC for a long time. It would make a lot of sense and has had some very good Auburn teams. Even though that some of the tournament success hasn't been what they wanted it to. And yes, you did get bounced by Yale this year, which is not great. And a lot of Kentucky fans probably would have been upset about that. But I think that, he's somebody that could have come in and done a pretty good job out there at, out there at Kentucky. But similar to Drew and to UConn, he's got a good gig out there. And as long as he can go and make a decent run in the tournament next year with Auburn, I think that fan base will be happy. And again, that's just kind of the difference between these, programs around the country and what their level of expectations are, even though that Kentucky in the past 12 years since that last national championship has not set the world on fire nearly as much as they have, in years past. They're still thought of as one of the top and premier programs in all of college basketball. And it certainly helps when you're bringing in 5-star caliber talent each and every year from the McDonald's All-American game that go on and be lottery picks and all that kind of stuff. And there was no difference this year. They had tons of great talent, led by guys like Reed Shepherd and stuff. They're going to have careers at the next level. It just was not working when they got in the tournament setting because they were routinely so much younger than the teams they were playing. Case in point, Oakland, a very experienced team. Jack Golke has been, playing basketball for the past 12 years and at the college level, it seems like, and they got the better of them and had a good night and were able to beat them in that first round. But it's just going to be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out between Arkansas and bringing Coach Calipari, with a big contract and with the NIL budget that they have to be able to bring in good talent to continue to hopefully replicate the success that Eric Musselman was doing out there, kind of overachieving in some ways, that catapults him to taking the Southern Cal job, and then see what Mark Pope can do out there at Kentucky, and how patient the fan base can be with him and what ends up happening there. But we'll see. Again, I want to thank everybody out here at TEC Equipment Rentals for having us out today. Great time and great food. Got to meet some people. Had our guys, Jason and Rusty, on a little bit earlier on to tell us a little bit about what's going on out here. Again, 2025 Old Dunbar Road out here in West Columbia. Been out here for right about 6 months, but they are obviously making a big impact so far, doing a lot of business here locally. And we certainly appreciate those guys doing business with us and allowing us to be out here and come hang out. If you need any equipment rental needs or anything like that, check out TEC Equipment Rental, and they can just take care of. They literally have every machine you can think of sitting out here in their parking lot that you can come and rent for whatever your needs may be. That'll do it for today's edition of the Halftime Show. It's a busy weekend. Got baseball obviously down at Florida tonight. Got the Masters going on. Got the women's parade coming up this weekend as well. So check all that out, and we'll talk to you Monday on what is hopefully a great weekend. You've been listening to the Halftime Show. Tyler Head along with you here on the game.